Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa, and today we have a very special guest, University of Alberta psychology student and fellow philosopher Nikolai Lychak. Okay, that's it. We got the We Are Bear Bears. We Bear. You ever seen that show?
No.
It's a good show, man. It's a really good show.
What's it about?
It's like three bears, and then they're all brothers, but like one's a panda, one's a brown bear, and one's a polar bear.
Ooh.
But I don't know if they're brothers. I think they might have adoption thing growing up.
Just
but...
like siblings.
Yeah.
Like kind of by not by choice, but
yeah, pretty much. Just let me double check that. Good. We're good. Okay, we're live.
Perfect.
All right, buddy. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, not too crazy. I'm, like you said, I'm a student at the University of Alberta.
Right.
Taking a year off right now.
Okay.
And I've just been working and trying to discover myself and learn outside of an academic institution.
How's that going?
It's going really well. It's been very different, and it's been a lot of change from what I've been used to, I guess my whole life, which is comfort in being guided somewhere. So in school, ever since you're in kindergarten, it's you have a path that's laid out for you, and I kind of took this year to just make that path myself and do what I wanted to do and what my body told me I wanted to do.
Okay, what kind of gave that, what gave you that push to be able to, you said you want to prioritize yourself and less of a structure. Mm-hmm. So this year you just want to be able to find yourself. Now what does that mean?
I think it means, it's a good question, but finding yourself, I think, means just being happy with how you are. And we've been born into this world to serve a purpose, I believe, and finding that purpose, whatever it is. So for me, as of now, my purpose is, I guess, trying to... You're gonna have to forgive me for some parts of my brain.
It's all good. No, dude. It's all good.
Goes in circles, so...
With purpose... I believe that there's a role for every single person, and I think it's actually the way I used to view purpose was there was a one purpose for every single person for their entire life, but I believe that there's actually many different purposes, right?
Absolutely.
Like I think maybe this morning I was talking to my family, and that could be my purpose for that moment, and then later on, we're going to that party. My purpose could just be having a good time with the people there and just spreading positivity. And there's this idea that one of my favorite psychologists, actually, Paul Conti, of being generative. Mm-hmm. It's adding to the world of value. And I'd argue it's a lot harder than just causing destruction, man. Because like when I'm in like the bad states, it's so easy to just prioritize the bad, right?
Absolutely. It's very easy to have that be the only
so when you
see.
With purpose, when did you discover this need for purpose?
It's been a long time coming, I think. And I looked for purpose in many different ways before I ended up coming to the answer that I've come to this year, we'll say. I tried to find purpose through school, and I tried to set my purpose as achieving good grades in school or staying organized in school or being successful in school. And then my purpose, when I came into troubles with that, hence why I'm taking a year off from school, I tried to put my purpose into something else, maybe like dance, and tried to say, hey, I'm a professional dancer, I'm in this field, maybe this is my purpose to continue with this. And after looking at all these things and devoting myself so heavily to a bunch of different things to try to bring out what my purpose was, I realized that your purpose is only what you make of it. So you get to define what your purpose is, and no one else can have any input on what that is. So if you decide that your purpose is to just exist in the day, from when you wake up to when you go to sleep, if that's your purpose, then that's your purpose, and you need to follow that the same way that you would if your purpose was to save millions and develop a cure for cancer and things like that. If that's what you believe your purpose is, being a hero and saving many versus just getting through the day, you need to be able to view those in the same priority and the same importance, even though they're two very different contrasting things. So I've really just prioritized defining my own purpose. So finding those things that I like doing and enjoy doing, and things that make me feel fulfilled, to kind of live that out. My purpose is to be. I think all of our purpose is to be.
How did you come about those experiences? Was there something that pushed you? Because it seems it's very mature, first of all. Like for our age, man, like it's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of people that lack this kind of deeper depth, and they just scroll through social media and then they go about their days and it's void of meaning and purpose. And when push comes to shove and life is very chaotic, I'm sure.
Oh yes.
Like we're definitely
It's
not.
absurd.
I know we do live in a first world country, but we're not immune to all the things like mental health or just like bad relationships and all these things. We're all susceptible to addiction.
Absolutely.
As well. What brought upon the need for just finding meaning, right?
I think it just came from a realization that I was following a path that was set out for me. I looked to the world and I looked to others to add value to what I thought my purpose was. So I'd see others around me and I'd see them succeeding in school or in work or in whatever their...
Did you compare yourself a lot?
Absolutely. And I think it's a thing that we all do at some point until we learn how destructive it can be. It was a lot of comparing. So you look at everyone else and the way that they operate and function in the world, and you can see people with different levels of competency and knowledge towards an infinite amount of fields. And the moment that you try to compare you as a completely unique individual to another completely unique individual, while us as humans we're very similar, we're also infinitely different. So for me to look at someone and say, hey, that guy has 4.0 in every class, and
I'm thinking of a guy right now. It's come so easy for him, man. Why can't I just have that 4.0?
But that's not you're not that person, and you trying to match that very specific skill set is it's absurd.
Unrealistic.
It's unrealistic.
What I see too when you do compare yourself to others, you're not looking at their problems. You're just seeing their achievements, right? And you don't really know that person. And even then, when you have your friends and they're all succeeding, and even family, you don't really know what's going on inside. For all we know, they could be the most miserable people driving a Ferrari.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like, think about if you're going to see people's successes, where you're going to be seeing them. You're going to be seeing them on social media. Yeah. Places where they're going to be advertising those things to you. I know I sure as hell don't advertise my bad things on social media.
Nobody does. Nobody likes to air they're out their dirty laundry, right? Because it's just like nobody wants to scroll down and be like, okay, this person's not doing too well, right?
Exactly. It's you don't want to be that killjoy.
Yeah. What role does the social media play into your life? Like I know we talked about comparison, right? And I'm sure we're both aware of kind of the consequences with social media and scrolling. There's the doom scrolling, and it can be pretty toxic. There's a lot of good things on it, right?
Absolutely.
Like good memes. But do you find that going on too much can really like bring you down?
Yeah, I don't think bring me down so much anymore. Definitely would have used to in the past,
Right.
but I think I've gotten very good at realizing when you've entered that state of just flicking through to just get that little ounce
Yeah.
of dopamine out of the mind, and it's not fun.
No, it's
So
not.
it's
Yeah.
once you can tell yourself, hey, I could be doing other things that could be making me a lot happier.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy for me to snap out of it. I'm not gonna lie and say that's always been the case. It's I probably have put more hours into social
Oh,
media
me
than
too, buddy.
anything else.
Me too. It's
But
nuts.
it's also it's a trap. At the end of the day, people are paid a lot of money for these corporations to make it as
Right.
addicting as possible to you.
And then the people advertise their lives, right? And it's just like it can be really destructive too, because it magnifies just like your view in the world, and you kind of view the world in like such a negative lens too. When you all you see is this negativity. You see that there's a fire there, there's people dying here, and then there's people just going through the most horrific things. But then like the positivity, they don't get clicks, like when the positive things on the news or even social media, you see all those, that thing with Israel and Palestine, and while I get that it is a very big cause, and I feel for them, but it can kind of like really bring people down, and I feel like people, there needs to be like a safety kind of manual for that, man. I feel like when I was in middle school, right, like go scrolling through that, I was often comparing myself to like the top elites, and then I'd look at myself like, why am I not that? Or if like a friend went on vacation, I'm not this? And there's this quote, I think I forgot who said it, I think Theodore Roosevelt, comparison is the thief of joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And you kind of have to, when you go on there, you need to keep in mind that, hey, you might just subconsciously like compare yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about, I think, understanding that what you're seeing isn't real.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at social media, you need to understand that behind everything that you see, there's another individual who's just like you. They're just another person, and they are trying to curate themselves in whatever way they want to advertise to you. They are only showing you exactly what they want you to see and nothing else more.
True.
So if I was to collect everything I have in my life and only pick the things that I want to see, I'd look like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And so we have all of these people, I think, online that are similar to Jesus Christ in what we can see of them. And because we don't get to see that other side, it's really hard for us to conceptualize that they might also just be going through the exact same troubles that you are. Being sad over a relationship or the loss of a loved one. We all go through these things the same way. At the end of the day, it just depends on how much you want to explore it with those around you and discuss it with those around you.
I get so bogged down when I think of myself too much, and I find, I don't know what it is like, what it's like for you, but when I think of this grand purpose, when I think of others, I feel happier. I don't know, like, are you the same?
It's definitely been a big shift in my mindset, because yes, like I would have considered myself for a large majority of my memory to just be a very sad person. I looked very pessimistically on a lot of things.
Me too, man.
And do you know what? At the time, it made sense, because I was able to use the knowledge and the logic that I have to go, look, you see all these bad things in the world, you see the evil, you see this suffering, the feelings that are the most impactful to you are the ones that hurt the most, and they're the ones that you're going to remember the most. And it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at some point, where you're just so trapped in this sadness. You're like, I'm sad, and you tell yourself you're sad. It becomes your identity. You're a sad person. It doesn't need to be like that. You just defined yourself as a sad person, and now you've been sad your whole life, whereas all you need to do is define yourself as a happy person, and see that you get to decide what emotions you feel and to what extent you feel them. And you shouldn't have to repress any because of this image that you want to portray of yourself, you know? So I had this image of being a sad person and harboring pity and things like that to try to gain worth. But I found that just being happy with myself and understanding that the only worth that I have is the worth that I give myself.
Right.
It's almost impossible to be sad. I feel like.
I mean, like when we victimize ourselves, right? When we feel like so, when there's so much pity within our psyche, and we feel like, oh, the world's on me. It's just I see so much evil, and I have so many problems. It just becomes heavier, right? And you go about your day and you just look for things, and like you said, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you tell yourself like, oh, I'm a sad person, right? It's easier said than done, right? But like you look for it. It's like, oh, this person treated me this way because I'm sad, because I'm depressed, right? And then you start to look for ways to confirm that, and then you look on the interactions that you've had, the relationships that failed, but at the same side, like at the same time, there's a lot of positive. Right?
There's much more positive,
right? But it's just so easy. Like it's so easy, and there's this idea that nothing worth having comes easy, right? That you have to work for your happiness. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't put in the work, right, to make sure that the relationships are well or sound, and if you make sure that your faith or your meaning and the purpose, and when you focus on these things that are greater than you, you just feel a lot more fulfilled. But at the same time, just because you change that one time doesn't mean it's gonna be like that forever.
Exactly.
Like, you have to keep putting in the work. That's just the way that life works.
It is.
And then there's this idea too where it's so easy to destroy something, but it takes years, even decades, to build something, right? And if you look at like skyscrapers, and it takes them a lot of planning, a lot of just manpower and finance, and just safety regulations, and people have to work together, and people have to come to a consensus. But it takes one bomb, boom, and I feel like it's like that with every facet of life. Like, can you tell me a point in your life where that has been the case, where you build something up so much, so we put in so many tears, blood, and effort, and then it was just, maybe to default to your own, or maybe your, other things, they just toppled over?
Yeah, honestly, I think my best example of that's going to be school. I had always been, I'd say, proficient in school, so I never really needed to study, do anything like that, and I could get by in my classes, and that's all that I ever wanted for myself. For the most part, like generally speaking, just getting by is the only goal that I've wanted. But I had still been working hard, and I'd still been stressing about school. And even though I was trying to tell myself that, oh, you don't need to care, you don't need to, it weighed a lot on me. I wanted to do well, I wanted to succeed.
School defined your identity, would you say?
School?
Self-worth. You derived a lot of self-worth from school.
Yeah, I derived, at that point in time, I derived a lot of self-worth from a lot of corporeal things that are existent in this world, which I think is something that people need to avoid. Tying yourself to anything physical really I think should be avoided, because at the end of the day we're beyond the physical. So while we exist in this world, nothing yet explains us and our mind, and I believe that that's something that's purely non-physical. So any sort of connection that you try to bring between your mind and something physical in the world, there's just never going to be a real connection, because they're not in the same plane of existence even. And anything that you try to, any way that you try to tie those things together is just going to be not a sound connection, in my opinion. So
when you're bogged down and you feel like today was just rough, and I know how does that play into the belief that this is, because it's so real when you're in the moment, right? And you explain this thing that we are so much more than the physical, right? You feel it's just we're more than the body. We're more than the mind, right? It goes beyond that.
Absolutely.
How do you rationalize when but does become really real, when life hits, you know? How do you rationalize that?
It's, you know what, is it's gonna sound really easy, and to me it does. Whenever I feel sad, upset, brought down, you know, you can't have rain without sun.
Yes.
You can't have sun without rain.
Yeah.
If you feel happy 24/7 all of the time, you're not happy at all.
You're not.
You're not. You just are. If you feel sad 24/7 all of the time, are you sad? No. You just are, because you have no idea, you have no concept of what happy is. So when I feel sad, all I have to do is remind myself that, look, when I feel happy, this sadness is what's going to give me the perspective to feel joy in that moment. So if I didn't feel bad right now, I would never truly know what good feels like.
Yeah.
And you can use that as a moment to kind of sulk in it.
Yeah.
And I like to, whenever I'm feeling distressed, upset, sad, anything, angry, it's my routine to just sit and analyze it. Accept it. You accept where it's coming from, because your feelings are your body, this physical, trying to talk to the non-physical, right? They exist in two separate planes, and right now the only form of communication that we have is by your body saying, ouch, that hurts, or cutting off your serotonin and saying, now you're sad. Yeah. You know, it's trying to communicate that something isn't right, and then it's up for you to interpret that and fix it. And once you know, hey, I'm feeling sad, what does that normally mean to me? What makes me feel sad? You know, you can pick it out and you can analyze it, and then be appreciative of the fact that you're sad in that moment, because your body's trying to send you a message, and you can be happy knowing that you've received the message correctly. You know, so let's say I'm upset because someone got angry at me at work or something like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, oh, I'm upset and my day is ruined, and just, you know, pulling this weight of sadness along through the entire day, it's very easy to just, okay, this is why I'm sad. You know, I'm sad because I'm upset that I got in the way of someone, or hurt someone, or said something I shouldn't have. That's why I'm upset. And then you can learn from that. Go, I don't like being upset. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Drop that bag there. Keep going with the rest of your day. You don't need to carry that. That you being sad is not going to help you be sad less. Really working through it and trying to figure out what the message is that your body's trying to tell you, so that when you experience those emotions again, it's easier for you to work through them. So, and I'm not going to by any means claim that that's something that's easy to do, because it isn't.
Of course not.
Introspection and reflection and meditation are things that are extremely hard for us to do, especially in periods such as now, where quick fixes and quick releases of the happy chemicals are what's king.
Prevalent.
Yes, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everything that you do. So being able to understand that, look, when you slow down and you just kind of shut everything out, you're the only thing that matters. Listen to what you're trying to tell yourself, because that's what's happening. Your body's trying to tell your mind something. And when you can listen to that and understand where your body's coming from, why it is that it's trying to send you that message, it just ends up making so much more sense.
That's amazing, man. I'm so fascinated by that. See, I kind of have the same belief, but I don't go kind of that. That was a great explanation.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Did you? I know you in the past it's been, you know, rough for you. I know you had you're it's good now, because a year sober. How many?
Yeah. So would be more than a year sober now. I guess I would have been sober end of December. So
congratulations, man! I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then did you believe? Do you believe that rock bottom? Would you describe it as rock bottom?
Absolutely. Okay. That was rock bottom.
Imperative to your growth and happiness now?
I think it's by no means imperative. If we're going to say generally, I don't think everyone needs to hit their rock bottom to go up.
Right.
But it was definitely imperative for me. So I had been very stubborn, and listening to my body, like I just talked about, and listening to what the message is that it's trying to send you. I had worked really hard on building up an ability to just shut those out and dismiss them and just go, oh, my body's got no clue what it's talking about or what it's thinking. I don't need to be stressed right now. I don't need to be anxious or sad or upset or angry. Get rid of those. Push those away. Bottle them up. Whatever. And I was very ignorant and I thought that was correct.
Right.
That like my entire life experience had told me that this is what's worked. This is what's correct. And it wasn't until I hit that point and I realized that, oh shit, I've been lying to myself my entire life.
When you looked inside of you, because I know we talked about the idea that people are so terrified to look within themselves, to sit in silence, to meditate, because the things that they know are tearing them apart are going to come out. It's going to come to the surface, and you're going to realize some pretty ugly things that are hiding inside of you.
Absolutely.
Right? When you made the decision to introspect, what did you see?
I saw a lot of lying, and it was a lot of denial, just in how I viewed myself. So it was a lot of false justification, and like I had reasons as to why I was the way I was. You know, this is how I am. This is the type of person that I am supposed to be. You know, this is the type of life that I'm supposed to live out.
Right.
And I had all of these preconceived notions of myself that I had made up myself, and I was living to them like they were some gospel sent from God. And once I realized that, oh, the only author of all of these ideas is me.
It's you.
And I just made them up at some point. I don't remember when I made them up, but I did. And it was once I realized that, oh, I made up these definitions for myself. I can make up whatever definitions I want. And that is what really it made this big shift, I'd say, for myself, because I was able to live whatever life I wanted to live, and I am now, and we're all able to. So,
how did you what made that shift though? Because I know it's so uncomfortable to introspect. What gave you that push? Was it just you didn't want another day of feeling upset? Was that it? I
had hurt people in my life, people that I loved,
right.
And I told myself that I never wanted to do that again. I loved these people so much, and I thought that I was doing everything right, and I thought that I was loving right, if that's even something that one can do. But I realized that buried in my ignorance of ignoring my emotions and my feelings and everything else that was happening in my life, I was actually hurting these people instead of protecting them, which is what I thought I was doing by repressing all of these emotions. I thought, if I can hide this and just keep it bottled up, then I won't be hurting anyone with all of my problems and my struggles. But I couldn't have been more wrong, because by bottling them up and by repressing them, I was actually causing much more harm.
Because it comes out in
out in ways that you're unable to control. Whereas if you allow it to come out and you're in control of it when it comes out, it can't hurt anyone, because you are in power instead of that massive explosion of emotion that takes over.
When you're going about your days and you experience the anger or the negativity, what practices do you implement? Is it meditation, prayer?
It comes in a lot of different forms, and meditation is really the biggest one. All introspection really starts with meditation.
Right.
and being able to just sit comfortably by yourself with your own thoughts for a prolonged period of time. And it's very hard for a lot of people to do, because a lot of people have a lot of stuff built up, and they know that if they just sit in a room with no noise and just close their eyes and think for like 15 minutes, they're going to be really disturbed by the end of it. And once you can work through those, which takes a while, and I really do recommend therapy if you are trying to work through those and you don't want to work it out by yourself. Once you work through that, you're able to just sit, analyze yourself. I practice meditation daily, and I'm not strict with myself either. There's no time frame, no nothing. I practice meditation daily because I like doing it. Realistically, it makes you feel good once you're done. So I challenge anyone, if you sit down for 10 minutes and just close your eyes and just think about yourself and the thoughts that are going through your mind, and you don't feel good at the end of it, either A, you did something wrong, or B, you're lying to yourself. Because
there's always a root cause, right? And how does faith play into your life?
Faith's a complicated one for me, and it's still one that I am not fully, I haven't fully worked out yet. So I still like to consider, I like to consider myself a work in progress until the day that I die. So, while I have a lot of things that are set in stone, it's really good to know and to understand and to accept the fact that one day those things that you might think are set in stone, you may have your opinion changed. And it's always good to keep an open mind, but not straying too far away from the question. I do believe in a higher power, God, Allah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it. I think that our life and the world that we live in is much too beautiful for a higher power to not have intervened. We, as humans, were able to think of these grandiose things, these things that are so much farther beyond this physical world that we're put into, that I think if we were just a random event, we wouldn't be having conversations like this right now.
This isn't by chance.
No, it isn't. It really isn't. It's so astronomically impossible, and well, scientists will agree with you, evolutionists, it's so astronomically impossible for the formation of life to begin. So many things need to line up absolutely perfectly, and they did. And they did for us to be having this conversation here right now. If you'd like to believe that that's random chance, go ahead, but you might as well go and buy your lottery ticket right now, because you believe in the same odds. And you're never going to win the lottery. And just the emotions that we feel when you look out to a sunset, it makes you feel, it's beautiful.
That you can't really explain it. I mean, you can try. Even the word itself doesn't even justify that awe, you could call it, or surprise, it being cathartic.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think that if we were put here by a higher power, that higher power gave us that sight and that ability and the ability to feel those things because they wanted us to feel, they wanted us to experience it. So
one thing I've always been this person that always wants to improve every single day, and while I ran every single day in my relationships, so okay, I've also experienced my own rock bottom, but I implemented a lot of relationship advice that on the positive end, and kind of worked on introspection, and it all came out, and it was all just very cathartic and being able to learn more about myself. But then I found something was missing. I think I really lacked that faith side. But as soon as I went to church and I started praying, I can't explain it. Something got unlocked, just that belief that made me so comfortable to have that safety net that no matter what I do, that I am loved by this higher power that made me in their own image, in his own image.
Exactly.
But what do you think of unconditional love?
I think it's something that's unexplainable. So it's another thing that I like to use the word absurd for. It makes no sense.
Doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense, but it is as real as this desk or that. Or,
But I think it's
computer.
beautiful, man. Isn't
It
that
is.
just no matter what you do,
Mhm.
right? It's your love. It's just a lot of people don't get that, and it comes out in such horrific things, and they do so many things because they're fueled with hate and rage and the lack of love, right? You see that in a lot of people. Like, we're so irrational at times, and destruction is so prevalent these days because it's so easy.
It is, and
Right.
it's something that makes me curious too. I'm curious what the psychology is behind why it's so much easier to be pessimistic and upset, and why it's so much harder for people to just be happy.
And it's so powerful, right? When you're in this mindset of doom, gloom, right?
Mhm.
It's tomorrow, it's never gonna get better. Why do we keep doing that to ourselves?
It's an infinite cycle, and like I said with the self-fulfilling prophecy, if you tell yourself that the world is shit and that every day is going to be shit and your life is going to be shit, it's going to be shit.
It's gonna happen.
It's going to happen because you are telling yourself that it is. All you need to do is switch that perspective.
Right.
And it's all that it takes. You tell yourself today's going to be a good day. You tell yourself every single person that I interact with, that I meet, I'm going to be kind to. I'm going to try to empathize with their situation. You know, even that person who is being the most annoying, rude, angry customer at 7 a.m, you know, I'm just going to love them. And
How do you like when you say love?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Though?
love as in the love that we should all feel for all people, right? We all have the same. While we all are extremely unique, we all live the same life. We're born and we die, and we have relationships within our life, and we have our experiences. We go through childhood and adulthood, and we all live the same life, and the human experience is universal.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to go through shitty days, and all that it takes for me to know is that, look, this person who's screaming and yelling at me because I got something on their order wrong, you know, something else is happening. Something else is going on.
Something deeper, right?
And I'm going to be the last person to judge someone for that. If someone's going through such a very poor, emotionally distressing time in their life where they feel the need to yell at someone over the way that their eggs were cooked, there's something that's going on that I really do. I empathize with them. I try to just understand that, look, they're not angry at me, right? They're not even angry at the eggs. They're not angry at anything that's happening here. They're angry at what's happening inside of their head, and because they've held it in so long, it has to come out, and it's coming out at me right now. I'll take it for them.
That's so freeing, though, right?
It is.
Like,
it is.
because when you carry that and you go home and you're like, okay, that doesn't have to do with me, but I understand that person.
Exactly.
Empathy is freedom in a way, right? That it's just when you go about this world and you deal, you're gonna get hurt, right?
You have to, or you'll never feel pain, or you'll never feel joy.
Yeah. You're gonna get hurt, and there are gonna be people that just won't like you. But at the end of the day, we're all human, right? We suffer, and while everybody's got different problems, I think it kind of all feels the same, right? Like when I guess people have a higher threshold with pain, people have a lower threshold, but it all kind of feels like when we feel joy, when we feel awe, when we feel sad, rage. I felt that. I'm sure, yeah, you live long enough, right? Even as a kid, like your first 5 years as a kid, you're just going based on how you feel.
Exactly.
You feel hungry? I want to eat right now. You feel like joyful? You just want to, play with your toys and run around. But when you're an adult, we kind of repress all that, right? And it gets all bottled in, and we don't know how to work with it. And emotions are one of those things where it's just like, nobody talks about it, and like we judge too quick, and that lack of empathy. How did you come about empathy? Because I know it's a skill, man, and you have to work. Like, it's not like riding a bike where you go on one time, or once you learn, you'll never forget it. Because on those days, right, where life just is a bit too much, sometimes I'm just Karen, man.
Trust me, I'm not going to by any means claim that I am able to live by my personal philosophies 24/7.
Yes.
They're my values and they're my goals that I try my best to follow. It doesn't mean I'm always gonna just love that person, okay?
Yeah.
Even though it's what I want to do, it's not always
Kind
going to
of
be
the
that way.
idea versus the reality,
Yes,
right? Like,
yes.
well, you have good intentions, right?
Mhm.
Life is never perfect, and I've been reflecting a lot on like perfection, right?
Mhm.
And how that's so unattainable. But who defined that? You know, who defined perfection? And I'm like, I have some scars on my body just
Mhm.
from like, you know, getting hurt, and I have like these just from running, and I think I look at it and I feel so ugly. I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh man, I'm not like up to standards. But
Mhm.
who decided that? I did. You
Yeah.
know, that society maybe had a role, but at the end of the day, you decide what's perfect and what's imperfect. And I think nobody is perfect, right?
Exactly.
It's just, or you could say everybody is perfect.
That's what
Yeah.
I would flip
No,
it. I would
really.
say everybody is perfect as long as you
Yeah.
fit your definition of perfection. That
Yeah.
definition that you get to set
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Don't look at other people's definition of perfection, because your definition and mine
Exactly.
is completely different, and we can both be equally happy and equally as comfortable in our own definitions of perfection, and still both be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about, you know, theory of relativity, okay?
Yeah.
You know, everything is relative to something else.
Yeah.
This is a lesson that I learned really early on in regards to empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, it's a little bit, you know, vulgar, but let's imagine a child starving, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy for us to go, there's children in war-torn countries that are starving without parents. And here's me with my completely ruined day because a customer yelled at me, and now I feel dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And the child who's starving without parents, and me who just got yelled at by a customer, we can feel the exact same levels of pain and sorrow.
A lot of people don't know
and
that.
suffering.
Yeah.
And that's the basis of empathy, is understanding that even though, yes, that child is objectively in a far worse situation than you are, and your problem is going to go away soon, it's understanding that your brain, all it does is it goes, you're sad, stop serotonin or whatever neurotransmitter. That's all the communication is between the starving child without parents and you who just got yelled at. Mm-hmm. And knowing that you too, even though your problems are so dramatically different, are feeling the exact same emotion. Mm-hmm. That's how you can convey empathy. And you can understand that, look, this guy is upset at his eggs, or this guy's upset at something, even though that's not something I'd get upset at. And even though that's something I know I could control my temper over, you know, he can control himself in different ways that I cannot. You know, something that I might get really angry at and really upset at, he thinks is nothing. The same way that I think his problem is nothing. And you just have to be able to really get into that person's shoes and go, look, this guy's yelling at me. He's this angry. I need to pretend like I can be this angry over eggs. And then when you do, it just makes it so much easier to understand where they're coming from. And then as yourself, you're able to go, look, if I'm this man who's getting angry at his eggs, what would be the thing that could help me? What would make me happy if I'm being angry at eggs right now? Oh, maybe some new eggs. Maybe some ketchup. Maybe something like that.
Soft voice, being, you know, forgiving, understanding person talking to you.
And then from that, it's as simple as I say, okay, well, I'm going to pretend like I'm angry at eggs, and then I'm going to, in the real world, do what I think would make me happy if I was angry over my eggs. To that guy who is angry over his eggs. And I'm not going to say that that's a foolproof method, because we all think our own ways, but it's just, it's a good place to start in understanding empathy and understanding where people come from. Because it's so hard to see it sometimes. You go, well, what the? He's getting so angry over some goddamn eggs.
Yeah.
There's children starving. But you need to know that doesn't matter, because it's the same level of real to him as it is to that child.
And even then, once those third world countries who are starving, once they get to our level of wealth and just the GDP rising, they're going to amalgamate to the same problems.
Exactly.
You know? And we don't even have a solution here.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to have a solution? Right? If it were flipped, if Canada became a third world country, I think that it would still act the same.
You know? No, it absolutely would.
Yeah.
And I wish, and if that were to happen, I'd hope that I'd be able to hold on to that same ideology that I have now, because as much as I talk about that child who may be starving, I have no clue what that's like.
Exactly.
And hopefully, pray to God, I never have any clue what that's like. But just being able to connect and acknowledge that it exists and that there are people that go through that, again, is another foundation of empathy. You don't have to experience the worst of the worst to be empathetic. You just need to understand that there is worse and there is better, and it is completely relative to the situation that the person is in.
That's beautiful, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
That's awesome. If only everybody could internalize that. This world would be a better place.
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
just we try our best, right? We're as an individual. How do you deal with uncertainty?
I love uncertainty.
Do you?
I never ever did before. My entire life has always been fear of change, fear of uncertainty, fear of the uncontrollable. But the uncontrollable is what makes life.
Right.
I think so. The fact that I don't know what's going to happen next, the fact that anything can happen, something's going to happen regardless of how you decide to interact with the uncertainty that you're faced with. Regardless of if you make one of two choices on this path of uncertainty, you are going to go down a path. So you might as well sit, think about it, instead of pushing it aside and making an incorrect choice.
What about like job loss though? Uncertainty, just injury. Like I often, when I am at the gym or when I'm going about my day, even when I'm driving, I feel like anything could happen and it doesn't sit right with me. Like I feel like I could get in a car crash at any time. I feel like when I suffer from hypochondria, I forget what, I think that's what it is, where you get like a disease or you get sick and I just jump to conclusions like cancer or like I'm gonna get my leg. I got my foot was I had a stress fracture actually. I didn't find out at the time. I didn't know at the time. I thought it was cancer and I thought I was gonna get my right foot chopped off. Now, how do you deal with just debilitating possibilities? Like,
It's and I think that's something that plagues a lot of people.
Plagues me now. So.
And realistically, you have to understand that is life. Like you nothing that you are able to do. There's nothing in your power that will save you from these inevitabilities that you think of in your mind, because you are yourself. You're able to create these impossible to solve problems, and you're able to assign these problems with such a high fear. You're able to be so fearful of these problems because almost because of your new outcome on life and how happy you are to be living. You're scared that something
I don't want it to be taken away.
You don't want it to be taken away.
Because I feel like we have a good, even with podcasting, right? I don't feel like something could just happen right now and end the conversation or
exactly.
I wouldn't be able to do what I do every day. Like,
my question to you is when you think about it, do you believe that you are helping yourself avoid those things, or are they so completely unavoidable?
No, I'm doing my due diligence, but it's just I think of these drunk drivers, right? I think of like these people who are out to hurt you, and I think of bad people out there who will hurt me, right? Like, powerless. Like, how do you deal with feeling powerless?
No such thing.
Yeah?
You're in control of everything that you do. You're not in control of everything that happens to you, but you're in control of everything that you do, and that's the only thing you're in control of.
The attitude.
Worrying about the actions of others and what the world might do to you is just a waste of energy, because regardless of how much you think about it, regardless of how much you worry, I could get cancer and die, I could get hit by a drunk driver, you worrying about it doesn't decrease your chance of it happening at all.
Right. Yeah.
If anything, science has proven that increased cortisol levels from stress increase cancer rates.
Yeah.
So you stressing about potentially getting cancer, again, with that self-fulfilling prophecy, not going to say that you worrying about getting cancer is going to give you cancer, but it's that same thing where regardless of if you worry about it, and if I don't worry about it, we have the same odds of getting cancer. It's because you either get cancer or you don't.
That's fair.
So it's bad math, but 50-50 in the sense that you will either get cancer in your life or you will not. And no matter how much you think about it and stress about it and fear about it and try to avoid it, you have no control. You're completely powerless, and it's very important to accept that you are powerless in certain things. So that you just have no control. And in that case, you have to let it be up to the world. You just have to trust that the world will do what is best for you.
How do you deal with shame and doubt? Because I mean, like you said earlier, I'm the same way where you go about life and you don't realize the mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then looking back, you realize after introspection, after meditation, after being enlightened, let's say that, you look back and there's things that you've done that just seem so despicable. But well, be it's not like murder or it's not like all these big war crimes. It's still like the little interactions. Oh, I could have been a better brother. I mean, I could have been a better son. I could have been a better friend. And how do you forgive yourself? You know, it's just like it doesn't sit right with me. I know we've talked about like how like we're not perfect, right? But I know I've internalized that, and it's just forgiving yourself. It's a different feeling, right? And
It is.
it's so easy to forgive others because we talked about like being empathetic and understanding that other side. How does one forgive themselves?
You know what? That is a really good question, and it's something that that I consider myself to still be working on in a lot of aspects.
Me too.
Forgiving yourself for mistakes that you've made in the past, and ooh.
Like, it's so easy for us to forgive others. It's not easy. It's not easy. But yourself though, because it's so you're in it and you know your motives, right? And those past mistakes, and you know you could have done better. You know you let your emotions get to you and you let it get out of hand, and it's that lack of control, right? That doesn't.
So the way that I ended up looking at it for myself, because I think I have a lot that I'm still haven't forgiven myself for, or I'm in the process of forgiving myself for. You need to see where you've come from. Why are you currently trying to forgive yourself for this? What happened in this situation? What did you do wrong? And then, well, what did you learn from it? So in every mistake that pops up in your mind, and all of these infractions that you've made towards others or yourself that you're trying to forgive yourself for, obviously you've learned something from it. Obviously good has come from it, because you're looking at yourself in the past as someone who was, misguided and just going through some stuff and some troubles, and you now are in this place where you're looking back at this person who was completely different from who you are today, and you're trying
is that person you though? Like that person in the past, is that you?
I actually thought about this the other day.
Yeah.
I argue no.
Huh?
I argue you are able to decide who you are at any moment. It's completely up to you. You are your own vessel in this continuum that we call time. And I looked at my computer and right. This is where I started thinking about this. I looked at my computer and I said, I replaced all of the parts inside of it. From when I got that computer, there was not a single part that exists inside of it from when I built that computer. But the hard drive and the data that's on the hard drive, I have all of the data, and it's still running the same operating system with the same account from when I made that computer.
You can delete some files though.
You can delete files.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But then I just sat and I said, is that the same computer that I had? Because it has always been my desktop. That's my desktop right there.
Right.
But none of the parts that are inside of it were in the original one. But yet I'm working on it and I'm working with it with all of the files in place and everything from the original computer. And throughout time, as you grow, you replace all of the cells in your body, so those components of that computer have been replaced by completely new molecules and atoms. Like, for us to say that just because we remember our past, we are the same person throughout time, I think does a disservice to the human ability to learn and adapt and change. While me saying that I'm a different person in the past doesn't mean that I go by a different name now, or I think that I'm completely independent from that Nikolai that existed in the past. I know 100% that I am not that Nikolai that existed in the past, because the one that exists right now knows that all of that in the past was not good, was not right, was something that I would not ever do again. And I believe that having such a dramatic shift and change of mind would be the same as a new person being born. That was me. However, the me that exists now and the mind that I use and the way that I use it does not reflect the actions of that Nikolai in the past. And I don't try to delete thoughts of that. I don't try to push that away. But it was a different guy who went through some different things, and his experiences and the way that he interacted with the world led to the Nikolai that sits in front of you now. And my experiences and actions of today will birth a new one tomorrow. And the experiences of that one the day after will birth a new Nikolai the day after that. You're constantly changing, and you're constantly learning that things are wrong and things are right, what is and what isn't. That saying that you're the person that you were when you were 1 year old, I think it's baloney, because I don't even remember myself when I was 1 year old. How can I say that was me? None of the cells that existed in that 1 year old Nikolai are currently in this body right now. No parts of it. That all that matter is scattered somewhere else. So, I have trouble rationalizing it in my head. And at the end of the day, when you're trying to work through big philosophical problems like this, the only person you have to rationalize it to is yourself. If it makes sense in your head, who the hell do you care if anyone else agrees or disagrees? Right? Because I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm trying to convince myself.
Convincing me, though. You're doing a good job convincing me.
It's not the purpose. The purpose is to just explain what I've done to convince myself. And that's what we all need to do, is find the ways to convince ourselves, that you're able to change and that you're able to be a new person. What you've done in the past and what's tied you down before doesn't have to always tie you down. You can change, you can make choices to be different. So if you don't like how you are, you're not stuck like that. Ever. You can change. It is very possible. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with the help of others. That's for you to decide what's the best way to approach it, but you just have to start by approaching it. So
what would you say to someone who is struggling with sobriety and they want to give in really bad, and it's like day 30 and really life gets to them? What would you say to them right now?
I had talked previously about how I always felt sad. I always felt depressed. When I quit drinking, it sucked. It sucked because I ended up quitting like cold turkey, and just
painful, right? The withdrawals that come from that. It's how long have you been drinking?
Would have been around 5 years, 5+ maybe.
Wow. And was it every day?
Oh yeah.
Every day.
Every day.
Would that be in grade 12 then?
Yeah.
Grade 11?
I would have
never known though.
Yeah. And
you're functioning. Like nobody.
You
were so just enthusiastic, and like you were smiling all the time.
And well, that's what I thought as well. That's why it never occurred to me that it was a problem until I realized
Was it progressive?
It was somewhat progressive. So it did get worse over time, and the quantity increased over time. until it hit a point where, yeah, you hit that tipping point, and you go,
Yeah.
you can't continue doing it. You know.
Well, how did you feel when you looked in the mirror after you've been binging? Is it
Oh.
you just drink some more, or did you feel any guilt, or
You just felt nothing, and that's
what it felt good?
That's what that's
Yeah.
what I think the appeal was at the end of the day.
Right.
Was like I wasn't thinking anything, because it just makes you not need to think. So not need to hold yourself accountable. You don't need to feel guilty. You don't feel any of those things when you're well, at least for me when I was drinking. So
Is that what meditation does for you now? Because it's kind of like your drink, but it's not harmful. No, it doesn't like destroy your organs. Would you say?
You know, it's almost like the complete opposite, I'd say, because instead of using the drink to not feel anything, and to get through the day by just pushing them away using a substance to help me, I'm purposefully addressing all of the issues and problems that I experienced throughout my day that would lead me to drinking at the end of the day. I'm instead dealing with them as they happen, and dealing with them throughout the day, so that when I finally retire at the end of the night, I'm not sitting there like working through my mind about all of these anxious things and stressful things that have happened throughout the day, and I'm not going into this dark spiral, which is then fueled more by the depressants that you're putting into your body, and then you just go into this spiral. But once you work it out through the day, I come home, I sit down, and I'm like, I'm just at peace. I'm not sad. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm not happy. But I'm just good because I've worked through everything. There's nothing looming over me. I don't feel any weight. So, yeah, and being able to alleviate that weight off your shoulders through meditation means that you don't need to rely on a substance to take it off your shoulders for you.
I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished, and I know we haven't been talking long. Really, we've only really become friends since the bus rides from the 414.
Love it.
But no, I think this is this. I'm gonna wrap it up now, and just no, dude, we've been talking for almost an hour.
Dude, I said I'd agree because I can just talk for.
Dude, this isn't the last time, man.
Yeah.
I wanna keep doing this, and I feel like I've learned so much, and you've come a long way, and I feel like a lot of people. This got very, very beautiful, and a lot of people out there can really derive a lot of meaning and lessons from this podcast today.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the reasons I accepted is I just like you. I just want to get that message out there that look, you're loved. You've got a purpose. If you're feeling in the dumps, you can change it, and it has to come from you, and you have to want to change it.
Right.
And that's all people need to know. Once they know that, it's you can lead a horse to water.
Right.
That's what I say. So
yeah, you've learned so much in such a short amount of time, and we're not that old, but I introduced you as a philosopher. I mean, we are kind of. We are.
You're a philosopher if you say you are. You just have to think.
But yeah, thank you for coming, and as always, everyone, keep it long term.
Keep it long term.
Thank you, Nikolai. Sweet. That was awesome.
I loved it.
Thank you.